What's up, Zebros? The year 2000. It sounded like the official beginning of the future. The new millennium that would bring us hoverboards, flying cars, and Russian drivers. Gaming has been developing for 40 or 50 years by then, depending on who you ask. Surely the industry had making games down and were beyond games being released that didn't work, right? And yet, here we are, at the beginning of a list of horrible games from the beginning of the new millennium. Some beloved characters were defiled, and some established principles of game design were thrown out the window. Today's video is brought to you by NordVPN. Use the link in the description and save 75% on a 3-year plan. Switch to NordVPN to protect yourself today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Here's our top 10 worst games of the 2000s. Before the most current super cool and sexy incarnation of Aquaman, he must have been one of the least beloved superheroes there was. He can control the fish, so what? But the 2003 Aquaman Battle for Atlantis was the real low point for the wettest hero of them all, even lower than James Cameron could ever go. Released for the GameCube and the Xbox, Battle for Atlantis failed on all fronts. Graphics were bland, and not only because of the quality of the textures, but also the designs of the environments were just sad. Atlantis looks like a former Soviet suburb most of the time. Even though this version of Aquaman is a bit cooler than the Super Friends version, he doesn't really do anything cool. Gameplay consists of beating up boring enemies that are just hanging around the map over and over again. There's one thing that's not horrible. Between levels, the story is told with comic-style panels. But if the best part of a game is the still images between levels, it's best to pass. Spirit of Speed 1937 for Dreamcast sounds simple. It's a racing game featuring cars from the 30s. Can't go wrong. Oh wait, there's LJN. They're really spreading poop across the decades, aren't they? Racing games are highly dependent on a couple of things: AI, physics, sound, and graphics. Spirit of 1939 scores badly on all 3 points. The AI just crashes on their own for no reason and rubber bands severely. Physics are non-existent. The car suspension doesn't move, and crashes make you bounce off guardrails as if your car's made out of rubber. The engine sounds are ridiculous, and sound more like some industrial machine on the loose than a precision racing engine. And the graphics? Take a look for yourself. This was released a year after Ridge Racer Type 4. Worst thing of all is the incredible load times. It's like waiting in line at a toy store for an hour just to receive a smack in the face. What can go wrong with a Mortal Kombat game? It's just guys and gals fighting and ripping off each other's heads, right? As long as there's gore, the fans keep wanting more. Except, this is a totally different Mortal Kombat game. The intro is cool, but that's where the fun stops. Though dark and violent, the Mortal Kombat universe is also strange and full of extreme flavors. Special Forces is totally devoid of these. You play as Special Agent Jax, and you jog through dark alleyways, beating up random groups of bad guys to further the plot. You'll see this as a reoccurring theme on this list. Controls are choppy, the graphics are bland, and the story? Kano and his henchmen have escaped prison and are looking for a dangerous artifact. It is pretty corny. Oh, Midway? This was the worst idea since the Mortal Kombat Live Tour. Kabuki? Isn't that a form of Japanese theater? Why is this game called Kabuki Warriors? Why are these artists fighting? This makes as much sense as a game called Ballet Brawl. But please, don't worry about it. You're never going to play it. Just let us tell you how bad it is. The AI is terrible, making it possible to win by just mashing buttons. The characters sometimes look alike, but not in an interesting evil twin way. But others do have elaborate costumes that are quite interesting to look at. Though blood sprays through the air, the game still upholds the idea that the fight is make-believe by letting the audience throw money at you for an entertaining performance. Though the game was torched in reviews, we still have some hope it's just a cultural misunderstanding, and that Kabuki Warriors is actually excellent to the people who really get it. Wrestling? The Simpsons did it. Badly. Simpsons Wrestling is a totally unnecessary wrestling game, as well as a totally unnecessary Simpsons game. In fact, it isn't even a wrestling game, as none of the characters do any actual wrestling. They just beat each other up in silly ways until one falls over to get pinned. Of course, it's delightful to recognize all those Simpson characters and to hear their catchphrases by the original voice actors. But during gameplay, the bad animations ruin enjoyment of any action that happens on screen. Graphics were also criticized in reviews, but this seems to be due to an attempt to generate a cel-shaded effect that didn't really work. But really, what did we expect from a game developed by a studio named Big Ape? Tunnel Rats 1968 is based on the movie of the same name. It's a movie about the dread of war and the young people that have to live through it. Lots of blood and psychological horrors. How did the game turn out? Mainly psychological horrors. The plot of the game is mainly advanced by the monologue of our protagonist. But at no time do we identify with him, because he's cruel and callous. He was described by one reviewer as insane from the start, and not in the funny Deadpool way.
Goddamn motherfucking sucking eyed trap setting.
All he does is disarm booby traps, which takes great precision, and collect the ears of his dead enemies as trophies. These collected ears increase your character's health, which makes us think that he's actually eating them, like a bag of chips. As we said, you'd be a real psycho to identify with this protagonist. As large parts of the game actually take place in underground tunnels, it's not very visually attractive. So it's not that Tunnel Rats is a totally dysfunctional game. It's just that many wrong decisions have been made along the way that led to an irreparable mess. This one is on this list not only for the mess that the game was, but also for the grandeur of the expectations surrounding it. Drake of the 99 Dragons was meant to be a multimedia empire, including animated series, toys, and comics. It didn't go that way, unfortunately, and it's not the fault of the game's visual design. Drake himself looks like a cool undead Matrix character. During gameplay, he dual wields his guns and has the ability to use bullet time. The environments are styled in some Asian cyber cartoony design. So what went wrong to get Drake of the 99 Dragons on this list? Everything else. Drake's dual guns are necessarily difficult to control, making Drake flail his arms around ridiculously. And the camera just refuses to give you a clear view of your goals. Sound design was also weak and cluttered. And have you heard Drake speak? You can almost see the gray-haired voice actor reading his lines in a robe.
The strength of the stolen souls is changing me. Have I become invincible?
According to one review, Drake of the 99 Dragons was even worse than Aquaman Battle for Atlantis. This list agrees. A Spyro game among the worst games of the 2000s? Okay, before you grab your pitchforks, hear us out. This isn't just any Spyro. It's Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, the fourth installment in the series and the first one on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. The step-up in console really seemed to play a role in the shortcomings of this game. Enter the Dragonfly was notoriously buggy and glitchy. And since the game was not bigger than the PS1, it seems the developer had some difficulty transferring to the new hardware, certainly because the PS2 version was significantly shorter than its predecessor, and still was riddled with bugs and had frame rate issues. Did you know this game was so poorly made it even got someone hurt? There was an incident in 2007 where a 4-year-old boy ended up permanently damaged when he was watching his older brother play the game and ended up with an epileptic seizure due to the glitches. At least, this was according to his mom, who sued Vivendi Games, Sierra Entertainment, Sony Computer Entertainment America, and the video rental store where they rented the game from. Some of the world's most famous monuments have been stolen, and the only ones that can solve this mystery are Charlie's Angels. You start your first mission as what we have to assume is Cameron Diaz. And because game developers think showing polygonal skin is the way to go, the mission takes place during a bikini contest. All is fine and dandy until you get randomly attacked and you have to fight off waves of enemies that seem to hate you for no reason. That or the bikini contest is really competitive. All this while almost naked and on stylish wedge heels. Just like other examples on this list, the meat of the game consists of beating up enemies that hang around in the levels for no other reason than to be on the receiving end of your boring combos. If you ever get the idea to explore the levels, you'll quickly realize that you're boxed in by invisible walls that force you to give up on your dreams and just grind it out. The repetitiveness is brutal. The only thing that's entertaining about the fighting is the sound that the Cameron Diaz character makes when she's hit. Sounding more like she's infatuated with a puppy than hurt. That and the pose she takes, which looks like those aliens from Men in Black. Big Rigs, over-the-road racing, is probably one of the most famous bad games. Big Rigs isn't bad because of a stupid concept or a weird tone. It's bad because none of those involved cared even the tiniest bit about the quality of the game. Development was outsourced to Ukraine to save money, and it's not that they don't know how to make games in Ukraine that made Big Rigs such a disaster. Stalker was developed in Ukraine and was awesome. The problem was that Big Rigs was developed on a $15,000 budget, was left unfinished, and then still got released in a pre-alpha state, meaning that even the basic gameplay features weren't finished, let alone polished. That's why you're confronted with a wholehearted "you're a winner" after you finish the race. Despite the game being very bad, it doesn't seem to be hated. Probably because the people that bought it already knew it was hilariously bad. There's even a fan site called yourwinner.com. That's it for the 10 worst games of the 2000s. Such a potpourri of horrible games, and all bad for different reasons. Some were recklessly bending genres, some just hit the wrong tone, and an unfortunate few were bad because they weren't loved enough. Let us know in the comments how much you hated these games, or how wrong we are for adding your secret favorite title. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell, and we'll see you next time for another Top 10.